From the shadowed rim of interstellar space, we first glimpsed them, the humans. A fragile blue-green orb spinning quietly in the void, seemingly insignificant among the glittering tapestry of stars and dying worlds. Yet something about that small sphere resonated within the sensors of the Lyrath expanse. It was not the magnitude of their energy output, primitive, inconsistent, almost chaotic, but the pattern within their chaos, an irregular pulse that refused to be fully catalogued. We recorded, we calculated, we attempted to predict, but every effort produced only contradictions. Our first scans revealed rudimentary communications, oscillating signals that bent conventional analysis. To our algorithms, it was noise. To our biologists, it was curious mimicry. To us, the observers, it was a subtle defiance. The human signals wove through space with an unpredictability that hinted at intelligence both raw and unshaped, like a storm refusing to be tamed. Our databases, extensive and precise, struggled to contain their anomalies. Patterns emerged: rapid technological development, atmospheric fluctuations, and localized energy surges that exceeded expected parameters. And yet, for every predictable result, there was a counter, a subtle correction, a behavior that confounded expectation. We watched their colonies scattered across planets once deemed marginal. Each settlement endured environmental extremes, resource scarcity, and isolation. Observers of countless species have long catalogued resilience, but humans exhibited an almost conscious persistence, a refusal to succumb to circumstance that seemed instinctive rather than calculated. Their movements were subtle, their strategies indirect. They adapted in ways that suggested something ancient, something buried deep within their psyche, a spark not merely of survival, but audacity. Reports flooded the galactic registers. The assembly convened as whispers of caution spread, a rare unanimous pause in judgment. This species, we realized, had evaded categorization at every turn. We debated their potential, our deliberations punctuated by growing unease. Could such a seemingly fragile species, so unremarkable in mass and weaponry, truly possess the capacity to reshape the balance of the galaxy? Even as our observation drones circled their orbital paths, we noted an almost imperceptible tension in the atmosphere of their homeworld. Human activity surged unpredictably, cities expanded, fleets were launched, experiments executed, all in synchrony, yet with no discernible pattern. It was as if the planet itself pulsed with intent, an organic rhythm that resisted our understanding. And yet we were drawn to it, unable to look away. Something about their chaos hinted at power, a force beyond logic, beyond calculation. Within the delicate interplay of survival and ingenuity, there was a promise of consequence, a quiet warning that the galaxy had yet to comprehend. From the safety of distant observation, we felt the stirrings of something profound, a species capable of defying expectation, of challenging centuries of knowledge. We catalogued, we calculated, but we could not predict. The humans were unpredictable, and within that unpredictability lay the germ of a force that could unseat even the oldest hierarchies. Our final report of the first observation ended with an unusual note, one that none of the assembly members had dared to write before. They are small. They are fragile. Even as the words left the record, a distant flare of energy erupted near the northern hemisphere, unprovoked and precise. We watched, silent, uncertain. The humans were already moving, and we did not yet know the game they had begun. The Sol system lay before us like a jewel suspended in darkness, the blue-green sphere of Earth at its heart, orbiting a modest sun. Our emissaries advanced confidently, fleets in elegant formation, shielded by centuries of protocol. We were certain of our superiority, certain of the outcome. First contact had been achieved countless times. Our species were practiced, predictable, disciplined. Yet humans, we quickly discovered, did not adhere to predictability. From the edges of their atmosphere, warning pulses erupted, silent to the eye, precise in frequency, yet enough to ripple through our sensor arrays. We catalogued each pulse, anticipating hesitation, caution, compliance. None came. Instead, humans maneuvered entire fleets with an audacity that defied our simulations. Ships curved through space in unpredictable arcs, avoiding zones our models insisted were inviolable. The algorithms screamed irregularity. Our analysts, accustomed to precision, exchanged uneasy signals. Irrational, reckless, impossible. Communications arrived in fragmented bursts. Unlike the rigid transmissions of other species, these were layered, simultaneously respectful and commanding, fearful yet defiant. Messages contained contradictions we could not reconcile, offers of negotiation followed by maneuvers that mirrored attack simulations, words of peace accompanied by tactical positioning that threatened our vessels. It was not mere chaos, it was chaos with intent, a dissonance we had never observed in intelligent life. For weeks we observed, catalogued, and recalculated. Every movement, every pulse seemed random, and yet consistently effective. Entire fleets repositioned in ways that suggested prescience. Defensive measures were anticipated and countered before engagement even began. Patterns emerged only to dissolve into unpredictability once more. Our sensors captured them adapting, improvising, and responding faster than any known species could sustain. Our xenobiologists whispered in stunned disbelief. These creatures were not just adaptable, they were evolutionary anomalies. Resilience beyond calculation, ingenuity beyond protocol. Tension escalated across our formations. What began as routine diplomacy transformed into a theater of uncertainty. The human's gaze, detected in subtle energy emissions, was not defensive alone. It was probing, calculating, almost audaciously confrontational. We felt, for the first time, the fragile weight of doubt settle over the command decks. Could a species so small, so apparently fragile, challenge our supremacy merely through unpredictability and will? Attempts at direct contact were met with oscillating signals, some welcoming, some taunting. Our probes were intercepted, scanned, and returned with cryptic modifications. Each interaction revealed strategy beneath chaos, timing beneath apparent randomness. Our analysts struggled to reconcile instinct with logic. Here was a species whose very unpredictability was a weapon, whose adaptability outstripped anything our simulations could model. And then came the first strike, not a strike of destruction, but of intentional disruption. A fleet in formation to establish orbital authority around Mars was met with coordinated pulses that destabilized shields and rerouted energy flows. No lives were lost, no ships destroyed, yet the message was unmistakable. Humans would not yield, would not be contained. From our distant observation points, we recorded the unprecedented. Humans were fearless in the face of superior firepower, audacious in their maneuvers, and deliberate in their apparent recklessness. Their defiance was neither brash nor foolish. It was calculated, instinctual, and terrifyingly effective. Each action was a challenge to our assumptions, a question without words. Do you truly understand the species before you? By the end of the second week, our fleets hesitated. The humans' movements, once chaotic, now unmistakably methodical, hinted at something ancient, almost instinctual. Our records labeled it Anomaly 112A, human strategic patterning, unpredictable, yet consistently superior. The term unquantifiable began appearing in reports, a concept alien to our data-driven culture. We felt a rare, unspoken unease ripple through the assembly fleet. Other civilizations, predictable and orderly, could be cataloged, controlled, or neutralized. Humans could not. They challenged our understanding of intelligence, strategy, and courage. In the dark reaches of space, we wondered aloud, how could such fragile beings harbor a force capable of redefining conflict? And then, as our emissaries prepared another engagement, the human fleet executed a maneuver so unanticipated, so elegantly audacious, that even our most advanced predictive models failed entirely. Our sensors screamed in overload, communication grids faltered, and a silence fell across our command vessels. The humans had not just responded, they had defined the terms of engagement. We waited, suspended in disbelief. What would come next? We had miscalculated. Confidence, long our companion in first contact, betrayed us as the Orion Belt operation unfolded. A contingent of our rescue fleet, dispatched to render aid to a struggling human colony caught in the gravitational tangle of a decaying asteroid field, transmitted its routine reports. Coordinates, energy flux, structural integrity, our data sufficed for any encounter. And yet, what arrived from that sector moments later was unthinkable. From the shadow of a dying moon, humans emerged. Not a trickle, not a ragged scattering, but a surge, an orchestrated apparition of vessels we had never catalogued. Weapons unknown to any galactic databank bristled along hulls small enough to appear fragile, but lethal in execution. Adaptive shields shimmered and bent, redirecting our energy pulses back toward us with uncanny precision. Every tactic we had rehearsed in simulations crumbled before their improvisation. Our fleet, designed for resilience, began to fall, ship by ship, to methods we could not anticipate, to strategies that defied probability. Observation drones captured the spectacle in horror. Humans moved as a single organism, yet retained individual initiative. Fleets we assumed incapable of coordinated maneuvers twisted and split, reformed, and struck with rhythmic perfection. Our algorithms, tuned to predict behavior across countless civilizations, faltered. Ships fired, shields deflected, countermeasures redirected, but human responses were neither reactive nor predictable. They were preemptive, fluid, and audacious. We documented the aftermath from orbit, and incredulity consumed us. Wreckage spun in slow arcs, punctuated by the brief flare of surviving engines. Not a single retreating human vessel appeared. Not one faltered under overwhelming odds. Where others might have fled, they advanced. Where hesitation might paralyze, humans sacrificed without hesitation. Their movements were calculated courage, a melding of instinct and intelligence that made our most disciplined admirals question every principle of engagement we had ever held. Data streams across the fleet began to label human actions as extreme anomalies. Each report, every recording, noted the paradox of their physiology, fragile by all conventional measures, and the ruthlessness they wielded. The humans did not merely fight, they asserted intent, carved strategy from chaos, and imposed it upon the battlefield. Their assault was both message and warning. Underestimate us, and the consequences are absolute. From our observation platforms, whispers circulated among even the most stoic analysts. Unpredictable, relentless, terrifyingly effective. The humans had rewritten the equation of force. Entire contingents of our fleet reported deviations in expected outcomes, shields overloaded, weapons misfired, formations destabilized, not by chance, but by human design. Even the dying moon, once silent and lifeless, bore witness. Craters became staging points, orbital debris served as cover for intricate maneuvers. Energy signatures pulsed from the surface in coordination with spacecraft above, as if the planet itself had lent a rhythm to the human strategy. Observation indicated no formal command structure, yet the cohesion was absolute. The humans anticipated, improvised, and executed simultaneously. Their presence in the field was a force multiplier, defying the very logic upon which we had built galactic doctrine. By the end of the engagement, the rescue fleet was decimated, not entirely, but irreparably compromised. Yet the humans did not linger to capitalize. They vanished as swiftly as they appeared, leaving behind wreckage, chaos, and an unmistakable message. They were capable of vengeance beyond imagination, yet measured in a way that only they understood. Across the Assembly's observation posts, a tremor of recognition spread. Humans were not merely resilient, they were evolutionary catalysts, capable of audacious improvisation that no simulation could capture. Where other species might crumble under overwhelming odds, humans created opportunity, shaping conflict with a will that was almost sacred in its ferocity. And in that moment, from the perspective of our distant observation, we understood. This was no mere species. This was a force, driven by an inner fire that defied logic, defied calculation, and demanded recognition. Every pulse of energy, every maneuver executed in perfect chaos, signaled the birth of something far greater than tactical prowess. It was the human spirit made manifest in battle. Our analysts, staring at the feeds, began an unprecedented notation. Extreme anomaly. Human response patterns exceed all known thresholds. Considered adaptive, relentless, ruthlessly intelligent. Observe future engagements with caution. The human fleet, having delivered devastation and a lesson we had not expected, slipped silently back toward the inner system. And as our remaining rescue vessels regrouped amidst the wreckage, a chilling realization settled over the command bridge. The humans had not merely defended themselves, they had declared war in principle, if not in name. We had underestimated them. That error would haunt us. The echoes of the Orion Belt engagement reverberated across the expanse. Reports streamed into the Assembly's central archives, fragmented, chaotic, yet precise, like the humans themselves. Normally, deliberations here were exercises in protocol, a slow and meticulous exchange of logic and precedent. Today, they were fraught with unease. Screens flickered with recordings of human fleets, adaptive maneuvers, and colonies retaliating preemptively. behavior that defied centuries of galactic doctrine. The humans were no longer anomalies to observe. They were catalysts, disruptive and unknowable. High-ranking members debated fiercely, voices layered with fascination, skepticism, and fear. Should containment be enforced? Observation alone? Some argued for restraint, citing ethical imperatives and the fragile appearance of human biology. Others, more pragmatic, warned that inaction could mean catastrophic escalation. All arguments collapsed under the undeniable truth. The humans' resilience and ingenuity surpassed all known thresholds. Entire fleets mobilized without centralized command. Colonies coordinated across vast distances. They adapted faster than any algorithm could predict. Protocols that had governed interstellar engagement for millennia were rendered obsolete in the span of a single encounter. From our observation platforms, we noted the subtle patterns emerging. The humans' actions were not merely instinctual, they were strategic improvisations, a combination of learned behavior and innate audacity. They moved with purpose without hierarchy, coordinated without oversight, and yet maintained efficiency that rivaled even our most disciplined fleets. The expanse itself seemed to tremble in recognition. Even long-dead systems bore witness to a species rewriting the rules of survival. Whispers filled the command halls. They cannot be contained. They cannot be predicted. Scholars of warfare, strategists, xenobiologists, none could reconcile the human paradox. They defy all established models, blending chaos with precision, intuition with innovation. Each new report compounded the tension. A colony had neutralized a rogue faction's blockade with minimal resources. A small fleet had rerouted an entire armada using unconventional tactics. The humans were teaching the galaxy a new grammar of conflict, silent, indirect, yet devastatingly effective. Observers felt the thrill and dread in equal measure. There was awe in their capability, but fear lingered. No previous species had forced the assembly to reconsider its foundational assumptions so swiftly. The humans were not just resilient, they were transformative, altering the balance of power by existing, by acting unpredictably yet decisively. Even the most stoic delegates felt it, a pulse of tension, as though the expanse itself had taken a breath. In private communications, some noted an unsettling thought. Humans did not merely react, they defined outcomes, turning unpredictability into advantage. Every encounter, every maneuver, was an assertion of control that required no explicit claim of authority. They had rewritten the rules of engagement without uttering a single word, without firing a single salvo to defense.
Their audacity, their adaptability, their sheer presence was rewriting centuries of strategy, forcing the galaxy to reckon with a species it had long underestimated. And as the assembly adjourned in uneasy silence, one thought lingered in every mind. The humans were coming, not just as a species, but as a force that would reshape the expanse itself. The records closed, yet the tension remained, electric and unresolved. The galaxy held its breath, knowing that the next encounter would not be merely observation, it would be a confrontation with inevitability. Months passed, and what had begun as cautious observation evolved into something more unsettling. From the distant sensors of our expanse outposts, we watched as humans escalated, quietly, deliberately, in ways that defied all expectation. They did not rely on sheer numbers, nor the overwhelming firepower that most civilizations wielded with predictability. Instead, they exploited ingenuity, terrain, and psychological insight, crafting strategies that seemed to anticipate not only our movements, but the very assumptions underlying them. Campaigns unfolded like intricate choreography. At first, the effects were almost imperceptible. Fleets appeared to wander aimlessly, colonies seemed to move independently, and yet gradually the pattern emerged, a subtle orchestration of misdirection, alliances, and technological improvisation. Our analysts, seasoned in centuries of interstellar strategy, began to whisper in disbelief. These humans were not merely adaptable, they transformed chaos into opportunity, leveraging what others ignored, turning disadvantage into strength. We observed colonies liberated without a single casualty, entire ambushes executed with precision, leaving enemy forces disoriented and demoralized. Their methods were at once unconventional and devastatingly effective, using uncharted energy signatures to mask movement, exploiting asteroid fields and nebulae for cover, and employing decoys that mimic their actual positions so convincingly that even our most advanced sensors were deceived. Every encounter left our fleet stunned, questioning the validity of centuries-old tactics. But the true terror and awe lay not in their tactics alone. humans possessed an unparalleled capacity to unite under extreme duress, turning fractured chaos into coherent purpose.
Independent colonies, scattered across hundreds of light years, coordinated effortlessly, responding to distant signals with intuition that bordered on prescience. Each engagement demonstrated a singular principle. Humans did not merely react, they imposed their will, silently, methodically, yet with a force that radiated confidence. Across strategic theaters, entire regions of space fell under human influence, not through conquest or tyranny, but through the awe inspired by their resilience. Enemy forces surrendered not out of fear alone, but from the realization that humans would outthink, outmaneuver, and endure them time and again. Psychological dominance became as effective as weaponized energy, morale shattered long before the first hull was breached. We cataloged their innovations with mounting astonishment. Adaptive shields that evolved mid-battle, weapon systems improvised from civilian technology, fleets that dispersed only to converge with lethal timing. Each success revealed the species capable of improvising on scales previously unimaginable. Observers from every corner of the expanse recorded the phenomenon with a mixture of dread and admiration. The humans were not merely a threat, they were an evolutionary force, challenging the very assumptions of warfare and survival. Even within our own ranks, unease spread. Commanders accustomed to dominance began to doubt their strategies. Analysts questioned centuries of doctrine. Entire alliances recalculated the risk of engagement. Where previously we might have dismissed a fledgling civilization, the humans now commanded respect, fear, and fascination in equal measure. Their influence was a shadow that extended further than any fleet could physically travel, a presence felt through audacity, adaptability, and relentless perseverance. And through it all, they moved quietly, without fanfare. No proclamations, no banners, no demands. Their power was demonstrated not in words, but in action, in the precise coordination of chaos into purpose, in the liberation of colonies without loss, in the audacity to challenge the expectations of the galaxy itself. We recorded every move, every decision, every subtle ripple of their influence, yet it remained impossible to predict what they would do next. By the end of the observation period, one fact had become undeniable. Humans were more than resilient, they were transformative, capable of rewriting engagement, strategy, and even the definitions of courage and ingenuity. And as their shadow spread across star systems, we began to realize that the galaxy would never be the same. The question lingered in every analysis, every discussion, every anxious transmission. If humans could act like this now, what would they become when fully engaged? The Helion Nebula stretched before us like a living canvas of gas and light, dense clouds twisting in currents that defy prediction. Our sensors, calibrated for fleets of predictable movements, quivered under the strange interference of the nebula's energy. Within this swirling expanse, the humans faced a coalition fleet unlike any we had ever witnessed, vast, disciplined, and confident in the superiority of its numbers. Yet from the first pulse of detection, it became clear the humans did not fight like other species. They fought beyond expectation. At first glance, their maneuvers appeared chaotic. Ships darted, vanished, and reappeared in bursts that should have violated every principle of physics. Entire squadrons seemed to dissolve into the nebula, only to strike from angles no strategy could anticipate. Energy readings spiked unpredictably, shields flared and absorbed impacts that should have devastated them, and every assault we recorded was answered with improvisation so fluid that even our most advanced simulations could not keep pace. We observed from orbit, recording every detail in disbelief. Analysts whispered of Anomaly 497X, the codename for this unprecedented engagement. Yet even as we cataloged the movements, we struggled to describe the intangible force at play, a rhythm, a coherence within apparent chaos that suggested instinct, intuition, and courage fused into a single, unstoppable will. Their actions were reckless by any conventional measure, yet precise in ways that suggested an innate understanding of fear and limitation, not only of their opponents, but of the rules that governed conflict itself. Enemy fleets, confident in numbers and firepower, faltered under human improvisation. Attacks designed to overwhelm were rendered ineffective as the humans anticipated patterns before they formed. Entire formations shifted with imperceptible timing, exploiting weaknesses invisible to our observation algorithms. Psychological impact compounded physical threat. The coalition hesitated, unsure which apparent strike was real, which feint, which misdirection. The humans had weaponized uncertainty itself. And still they pressed forward. Losses were endured with calm calculation. Sacrifices were made, not recklessly, but with deliberate intent. Each human vessel seemed aware of the larger strategy, moving as if guided by a consciousness greater than the sum of its parts. Observers noted a singular truth. These were not isolated actions. They were a coordinated defiance of expectation, a rewriting of engagement from within the heart of conflict. We, the distant watchers, felt a tremor that ran deeper than tactical concern. The humans' courage bordered on recklessness, yet every movement carried purpose. The aura surrounding their fleet was unlike any phenomenon recorded, an almost sacred defiance, an unstoppable will that radiated from the humans themselves. Ships that should have been destroyed survived, while adversaries faltered and withdrew under pressure that seemed disproportionate to reality. For the first time, questions arose that could not be dismissed. Was this rise accidental, a fluke of evolution and circumstance? Or had humanity always been destined to transcend the limits we assumed? Analysts, philosophers, and strategists alike struggled to reconcile what they had witnessed. The Helion Nebula would become a legend in our records, not for the fleets deployed, not for the weapons used, but for the audacity, cohesion, and sheer defiance of a species that seemed to operate on a plane beyond calculation. As the last skirmishes faded into the nebula's shifting mists, we recorded the final data points. Human forces, battered but intact, held positions that should have been impossible. Enemy morale had collapsed, yet no grand proclamation heralded the victory. The humans remained enigmatic, calm, and unyielding, as if the entire engagement had been a proof of principle, a statement to the galaxy rather than a conquest to claim. We, the observers, were left with a singular, inescapable truth. Humanity was no longer a fledgling civilization. It was a force that had transcended conventional strategy, a species whose will alone could bend events to purpose. And in the silent vastness of the Helion Nebula, we felt it, the inevitability of their rise, the tremor of a galaxy, unprepared for the storm humanity would unleash next. The remnants of the coalition drifted through space like shattered constellations, their fleets crippled, their authority fractured. Observers from the far reaches of the expanse expected the humans to press their advantage, to consolidate dominion where weakness had been revealed. Yet what unfolded defied expectation, logic, and every precedent we had catalogued. Humans did not claim victory through conquest. They moved with a quiet purpose, a force neither violent nor coercive, yet impossibly compelling. Across devastated worlds, human fleets and colonies appeared, not as conquerors but as healers. They repaired shattered infrastructure, stabilized atmospheres, and redistributed technology and resources with a precision and compassion that astonished even the most experienced observers. Entire populations, once paralyzed by fear or trauma, regained agency as humans offered guidance, not governance. Reports flooded our archives, medical systems restored in days, power grids reactivated with minimal waste, and colonies once abandoned now thriving under subtle, unseen human coordination. The humans spread influence through awe, not firepower. Their presence alone inspired resilience and courage in civilizations that had never known hope. From our orbital platforms, we observed something unfamiliar in galactic interactions: cooperation born of inspiration rather than fear or obligation. Beings we considered inferior, fragile, inefficient, inconsequential, rebuilt their societies under human guidance, adopting not commands but principles. Knowledge was shared freely. Tactics, engineering, and medical insights flowed outward in a torrent, unbound by borders or authority. The human strength was not in dominion but in courage tempered with intelligence, persistence paired with moral clarity. It was a brand of power we had never before quantified. Even the assembly, long confident in its hierarchy, began to waver. Debates erupted over leadership, influence, and the nature of authority itself. Could a species so unassuming redefine power simply by example? Each demonstration of human ingenuity, each act of altruism paired with tactical genius, forced the galaxy to reconsider the very meaning of strength. Where others ruled through fear or strict command, humans ruled through possibility, resilience, and the subtle assertion of will. And so the Expanse watched, astonished, as humanity extended a hand to worlds previously deemed lost. Their fleets moved not to subjugate, but to heal. Their colonies spread knowledge rather than empires. Their presence reshaped societies without a single act of coercion. Even as observers, we recorded the paradox: a species capable of unmatched ruthlessness in war, yet boundlessly generous and wise in peace. By the close of this period, one truth crystallized across all archives. Humans had rewritten the rules of engagement, of influence, of power itself. They demonstrated that strength could coexist with empathy, courage with compassion, and resilience with moral clarity. In the quiet aftermath of devastation, humanity had illuminated a path forward for the galaxy, a lesson not imposed, but lived, and one that would resonate for generations to come. The expanse trembled not at human dominance, but at the possibility they represented, that intelligence and moral will combined could reshape entire civilizations. Even we, observers trained in millennia of detachment, felt awe stir in our circuits. The humans had not conquered through might, they had redeemed through example, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the quiet aftermath of conflict and upheaval, the galaxy began to breathe differently. Human influence, subtle yet undeniable, spread across star systems like a pulse of life through the void. Formerly dominant civilizations observed with a mixture of fear, awe, and reluctant admiration. Where once power had been measured in fleets and weaponry, it was now measured in ingenuity, cooperation, and audacious courage. Colonies that had suffered under neglect or war flourished under human guidance. Alliances, once fragile and tentative, strengthened as humans facilitated understanding and resource sharing. Old rivalries cooled, not because force dictated it, but because humans had demonstrated a new paradigm: resilience, adaptation, and the courage to act decisively yet morally. The galaxy began to shift, subtly, as if recognizing a species that did not merely occupy space, but reshaped the very rules of existence. The assembly, humbled and wary, convened again. Discussions no longer focused on domination or enforcement, but on understanding. Humans were neither conquerors nor saviors. They were catalysts, instigators of evolution on a galactic scale. Entire species, once confident in their hierarchies, now reconsidered assumptions about intelligence, strategy, and morality.
Humanity's unpredictability, ingenuity, and ethical courage became benchmarks against which all others were measured. From our distant vantage, we, the observers, recognized a profound truth. The humans had redefined possibility itself. Life in the expanse was no longer static, no longer predictable. Power was not in domination, but in the capacity to endure, adapt, and inspire across unimaginable distances. Every planet touched, every alliance strengthened, every life saved was proof. Humanity's impact was not temporary or territorial, it was existential. And so, as stars wheeled silently above, we recorded it all with awe. A species small in stature, fragile by biology, yet unstoppable in spirit. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy, they changed it, simply by being what they were: relentless, unpredictable, ingenious, and profoundly alive.